Hi, this is Mrs. Gallagher, and today we're going to discuss the transformation reflection. So a reflection is a transformation which flips the figure over a given line. So a reflection is a transformation which flips the figure over a given line. To remember a reflection, we have FL in reflection, and a reflection is a flip, FL. Helps you remember reflection, flip. The line is called the line of reflection. So the line is called the line of reflection. And what that basically means, a reflection, the figures create a mirror image. So they're a mirror image of each other. So the figures are a mirror image of each other. So now let's do an example of how we reflect an image. In example 1, it says triangle ABC is being reflected over the x-axis. Draw and label the image triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime. Okay, so it's telling us to reflect it over the x-axis. So where's our x-axis? It's right here. So we want to reflect it over the x. All we're going to do to reflect an image is we're going to count the number of units it is away from the axis. So for example, here's A. A is 1, 2, 3 away from the x-axis. Therefore, we're going to graph it 1, 2, 3 above the x-axis. So you're going to make your coordinate, your point here, your coordinate, and label that A prime. Now here we have B. B's on the x-axis. Therefore, B prime will also stay on the x-axis. That's B prime. And then C is 1, 2 away from the x-axis. So we count 1, 2 away from the x-axis. And that's going to be C prime. Now we're going to connect our coordinates. And if you notice, we create a triangle that is a mirror image of our original triangle. Okay, if you folded it in half, they'd be the exact same image on top of each other. So we can use an arrow to describe this reflection. So we have ABC, triangle ABC. Our arrow goes to triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime. Okay, so now let's record our coordinates. What are our coordinates? So for our original, our A was 1, -3. Our B was, or is, 3, 0. And our C is 4, -2. So now let's record our new coordinates, our primes. Okay, so A prime is +1, 3. B prime stayed the same at 3, 0. And now C prime, we went to the right 4 and up 2. So 4, 2. So now let's identify what our general rule was when we reflect over the x-axis. So look at our original coordinates here. For A, we went from 1 to A prime was 1. For B, we went from 3 to B prime was 3. And C was 4 and C prime was 4. So what do you notice about our x coordinates? The x coordinates stayed the same. So it's just x. It stays the same. Okay, so now let's look at our y coordinates. And our y coordinates, we went from -3, and our A prime was 3. B, 0, B prime was 0, it stayed the same coordinate. And then C went from -2 to 2. So what do we notice? It went from a negative to a positive. Therefore, you multiply our y coordinate by -1. So it's a negative y. The y becomes the opposite. So our y value becomes the opposite. So if we had a positive y, it would become a negative y. If we have a negative y, it would become a positive y. And that is when we flip over the x-axis. So now let's look at the figure again, and we want to identify if it's congruent or similar, and explain how you know. Well, are these congruent or similar? They are congruent. And how do we know they're congruent? Because they are the same size and the same shape. So these figures are congruent because the triangles are the same size and the same shape. Okay, let's do another example together. In example 2, it says, triangle ABC is reflected over the y-axis. So in this problem, we are reflecting over our y-axis. And it states, draw the image A prime, B prime, and C prime. So our y-axis is right here. Therefore, we're going to flip the image over the y-axis like that. So we want to draw A prime, B prime, and C prime. So we have A is 1 away from the y, so we're going to go 1 away from the y. Graph our coordinate and label that A prime. B is 1, 2, 3, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're creating a mirror image of the original figure. That's B prime. And then C is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is our C prime. So next we're going to create our triangle. And if you notice, our triangle is a mirror image. Okay, so now it says what are the coordinates of A to A prime, B to B prime, and C to C prime. So let's find our original coordinates. So our A is 1, negative 3. Our B is 3, 0. And our C over 4 down 2. So 4, negative 2. So now let's identify our primes. So A prime is negative 1, negative 3. Our B prime is negative 3, 0. And our C prime is negative 4, negative 2. Next, it's asking us to write a general rule for a y-axis reflection. So let's look at our x-coordinates first. We went from a positive 1 to a negative 1. We went from a 3 to a negative 3 and a 4 to a negative 4. So what do we notice about our x-coordinates? It became the opposite. So your x is going to be multiplied by negative 1 or negative x. It becomes the opposite. So if your x value, your original x value was a negative, it would become a positive when you're reflecting over the y-axis. Now let's look at our y value. We went from negative 3 to negative 3, 0 to 0, and negative 2 to negative 2. So what do you notice here? We notice that our y stays the same. So our y stays the same. So when we reflect over the y-axis, the y value stays the same. And the last question, tell me more about this figure. Is it congruent or similar? Explain how you know. If you look at the reflection, they are congruent. And how do we know they're congruent? Because they have the same shape and the same size. So these two triangles are congruent because they have the same shape and same size. So now what I'd like you to do is the you try section. Please complete problem number 1, parts A, B, C, and D. And problem number 2, A, B, C, and D, and we will discuss it in class. Thank you.